Because one of the things you said was, safe is an extension of Scrum. You didn't exactly say that, but you kind of said that. And many people are going to come at it with, no, it's not. I'm like, trust me, it is. Like,
Welcome everyone to another edition of Drunk Agile. Pratik's glass is suspiciously
I
empty.
know. I was like, wait, but this is
It's
not. Yeah,
almost like we've been doing this before. So, we're going to skip the pleasantries on this one. This will be again, we don't know the order that these things are going to be published beforehand, but we're going to assume that we've done an episode on empiricism versus science. We're
yep.
going to do a quick follow-up on that in terms of like,
If we haven't, go watch the next episode and then come
yeah,
back to this episode.
in the future. A quick follow-up on that about how, some of the reasons why Pratik and I favor a more scientific approach, but more importantly, how none of these empirical frameworks, agile frameworks, are based whatsoever on science. So Pratik, I know you mentioned a couple things right before we hit record, so start us off.
Yeah, I mean, we'd been talking about biases that creep into empiricism and how that kind of um, nullifies any any chance of this being of a certain conjecture being scientific. Um, we when we talk about when Dan and I talk about flow, we're basing all of our thoughts, ideas on mostly two people, on either Dr. Little or Stewart. Like that's where all of it is coming from. And those can be understood, their work, the papers can be understood without bringing bias to the table because they are mathematically, scientifically proven. You don't coming into that paper, you can't just go, oh, that's a matter of opinion. No, there is science behind it. And I think that's where we were starting our questioning of other frameworks outside of the flow principles that we talk about. Like where does it say in a scientific proof that there has to be a limit on team size? Where does it say as a scientific proof that a team needs a scrum master? Um, the, that's in my opinion, our opinion, a matter of conjecture, not a scientifically proven or theoretically uh, derived artifact.
So many things you said there that I'd love to kind of pull apart. I don't know if we have enough time. Maybe this is several episodes. Just as a quick aside, the astute reader out there, if anybody has gone and read the original Stewart, you will recognize pretty quickly that Stewart was, when he was first coming up with a formulas to develop his limits, he was the first one to put his hand up to say these limits were empirically derived, right? It's like just those were based. He was really honest about this. Like those were based on empiricism. But the thing is, he didn't stop there. He's like, yes,
Yeah.
these were empirically derived, but then he continued with experimentation, to hopefully prove, over and over again. And he proved himself through experimentation. Others have taken his work and proved it and extended it to different contexts and different arenas and proved that over and over. So there is a wealth of replication of what Short has done. That's science, right? That's the essence of science. Coming back to something that I think, one of the most important things that Pratik said, before I started rambling, was this notion of take any principle you want from the Scrum framework. Pick one. Pratik mentioned a couple. The fact that you need a Scrum Master, the fact that you should have team size. My favorite is the fact that you need fixed length
Time
boxes for iterations or sprints or whatever. Take any one of those things. None of those, and I think I can say this very confidently, none of those are based on any science whatsoever. Not at all. Now, that's not to say that some of those things may work in your context. Maybe they do,
Yeah.
maybe they don't. But at that point, the best you can say is you got lucky, right? That's that. So if it worked for you, great, but you're probably lucky at that point, because there is no science behind this to prove that Scrum as an approach, or even, if we extend that further, SAFe as an approach, there's nothing about those things that are based on any sound scientific theory. And by the way, don't get me started on training from the back of the room. Brain science. Give me a fucking break. This is based on brain science.
See, now you've said like 20 things I want to
Okay,
get
you
into.
go.
Because one of the things you said was, SAFe is an extension of Scrum. You didn't exactly say that, but you kind of said that. And many people are going to come at it with, no, it's not. I'm like, trust me, it is. Like when you read it is. It really is. And the reason we're saying it is, or reason at least I'm saying it is because the same unscientific thinking has just been taken to the next level. The same time boxes, the same RT Scrum Master, now you have an RTE, whatever. The same things have been taken to the next level. I did want to come back to the time boxes. I did want to come back to the sprints
Uh-oh.
because
We only have so
this
much
is.
time, Pratik, but go ahead.
I totally understand. I totally get that you need you might not have enough time, but you might not be able to bring your stakeholders, your C-level executives, whoever, to your team just in time. I get it. That's happen. They have other things to do. I get it. So having a cadence of, hey, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, whatever it is, a meeting is there where you can come. Which, by the way, if you can't get them just in time, you probably are not going to get them in that meeting more often either. But having that cadence helps. It definitely helps. At least the meeting is on their calendar. But there is absolutely no scientific reason that cadence of meeting has to be the same cadence as setting goals, has to be the same cadence as planning. There is absolutely no reason for that. And there is no scientific proof that those cadences matching each other is better than those cadences being separate, or the variability in our work probably means that one of those things does not need a cadence and others might benefit from one. There's no scientific evidence that works.
As you were talking, I was struggling to think of anything that I can add to that. So I was going to kind of bring us back around to the beginning. Is there anything else that you wanted to say along that line of thought before I kind of bring us back, or?
To biases?
Well, bias is probably be another its own episode,
Yeah,
probably.
it'll have to be another thing. Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah.
Well, because I was thinking, just as an alternative to what I said at the outset, right? You look through Scrum, you look through principles of Scrum, and there's nothing in Scrum that is scientific, based on any scientific theory, right? Nothing, right? Like I said, might be empirical and it might work in your context, but that doesn't mean it's scientific. And what I wanted to bring us back around to, given that point, what I want to bring us back around to, though, the thing that Pratik and I can tell you with fairly high level of confidence is, um, the more things that you work on, generally, the longer it's going to take each of those things to complete. The more things you work on, at some point, there will be a point at which your throughput falls off a cliff, right? All the data that you collect off your system will have some degree of variability in it. And you will need to understand what the variation in that data is in order to make decisions, right? These are things that we can say confidently without knowing your context, without knowing how you work, without knowing anything, because it's science, right? And so if you're looking for improvements, if you're looking for ways to improve your agile implementation or your lean implementation, we are very, very, very strong proponents of look to the science. Again, TBR is not science. Look to the science, and don't look to use Pratik's word, conjecture, or you might want to substitute in there biased filled empiricism. No, I guess those
Yeah.
two are the same thing, right? Conjecture
Same
and
thing. Yeah, at
bias
that
filled. Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But that's the point. Oof.
Go, just go.
This the everything that Dan just described, or in terms of things, when you work on too many things, things take longer. All of that, it's in scientific papers that people have tried to disprove for years. Not prove, but disprove. When you submit a scientific paper, people try to disprove it, and if it gets disproven by empiricism, that theory is invalid. Those theories have not been invalidated. Something like Scrum or something like Safe has been invalidated over and over again and was never a scientific paper. It was never in a scientific journal. Whatever the original paper was not in a scientific journal, and it wasn't scientifically presented and scientifically disproven. That's the crux of the argument, at least for me, that scientifically proven things or scientifically not disproven things are the ones that we rely on to bring. But obviously, there is a lot of unscientific thinking out there that just people seem to latch onto.
Right. And you just reminded me, and maybe we'll wrap with this. One of my favorite people to listen to, maybe my favorite person to listen to about this whole idea of science versus empiricism, and really kind of the history of the scientific method and why the scientific method is so important, is Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you just go Google him and watch some of his videos about the scientific method, and I think it's genius, some of the arguments that he makes around what is science and what isn't science. And I think we as a community, as an agile community, as a lean community, could learn a lot from how that man thinks about, about the application of science, and more importantly, to your point, the application of non-science, right? So with that, we'll leave it with that. Again, what do you think? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? If you disagree with us, you're stupid, right? That's a scientific approach, right? We just know if you disagree with us, you're stupid.
Yeah.
No, but please leave us a comment. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear what you're thinking about this. Are we in the right direction? Are we thinking about this correctly? Or, do you have some other things that we haven't considered? In the meantime, I want to say thank you so much to Pratik for joining us. And mostly, as always, thanks to all of you for watching. And we will see you in the next episode. Good night, everyone.
Yes.
If you like this content, all of you know how YouTube works. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We'd love to get your feedback and love to put more quality content out for you. Pratik, what else can they do?
Use the links in the description to reach out to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. See if there's a way we can work together. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to see you. Thanks everybody for watching, and we hope to see you again very, very soon.